Okay, let's get y'all's the Effects No Cap podcast now. Horace Car here with another episode, and if you haven't checked my previous episodes, make sure you check that out. Oh man, today is just a bit of a frustration, man. Oh, this is a huge frustration, as if you know me personally or if you've heard. I don't know if I've said this, but the Houston Rockets are my favorite basketball team, and I know you can laugh all you want, but man, it's been tough, very tough. And I'm just gonna talk about like the the fucking mistakes they've made for like the past like 30 years, or not even 30 years, probably from my time as a Rockets fan. So this is how it starts. 2016, I become a Rockets fan because I thought James Harden was one of the most underrated players in the league at that time. Yeah, because he was putting up MVP type numbers, and he didn't make an All NBA team. Actually, I'm not even really going to talk about those years. I'm not going to. But 2017, he got around the MVP. I don't care if you say Russ deserved it. I do think Russ deserved it, but I think James Harden deserved it more. I don't care. I'm just going to say James Harden should have won that MVP. Next year, in that same year, you trade for Chris Paul, which at when people look at it now, it wasn't really truly a bad trade because of what happened the year after. But at the same time, now when I look back at the trade, they gave up a lot for it. They lost that trade. They gave up Patrick Beverly, Lou Williams, Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell, Sam Decker, and a bunch of other. I forgot Sam Decker. I think those were the four guys for Chris Paul. Which, yes, it doesn't look like it at face value, but when we look, it doesn't look like a bad trade when we just hear the players. But this is where it came down to. The Rockets lost their best perimeter defending guard. They lost They lost a young promising center in Montrezl Harrell who could come off the bench and be that athletic big that the Rockets needed. And they gave Lou Will bench scoring. They still had Eric Gordon, but it really made no sense to give up all those guys because of two reasons. Chris Paul said he was gonna go there in the offseason, and you gave up a lot of that. And then that eventually, because of Chris Paul's contract, that led to Trevor Ariza being gone, and also Clint Capella wanting a raise. It also led to Mbah Mute. It led to Trevor Ariza was art like it just these were so man the man I really missed that Rockets team, but still though because Chris Paul was gave so much contract, you lost your two best perimeter defenders in 2 years. You also lost a young, promising center who's on the Lakers, who's balling out on the Lakers, and you gave up Lou Will. I know he was bad in the Rockets, so I'm not really completely mad at that. But Eric Gordon's getting older. You picked him, and you decided to give him the money, and yet he's very injury prone and inconsistent. And Lou Will, I don't know. I don't know if he's better, if he's not better. I don't know, but we'll see about that. And then now I'm going to talk about the next year, the year where James Harden finally wins MVP, and then the Rockets win 65 wins. Ah man, they won 65 wins. Yeah, we're one win away from Western Conference Finals. Chris Paul gets injured, of course. The Rockets have a 15-point lead in two of both of those games, Game 6 and Game 7. And James Harden really didn't step up. He didn't step up. The entire team didn't step up. Everyone was down mentally, which, oh man, James Harden couldn't step up. As much as I think James Harden has had his playoff failures, I think this is one of them, as I think he really could have stepped up. And this was such a winnable game that if he just played like he normally did, the Rockets would have made the finals. But this is my problem. Mike D'Antoni, man. I get he's a really great coach. He was the reason why James Harden had MVP seasons, but Mike D'Antoni, man doesn't make adjustments. Man doesn't just sticks to this formula. And after that 2018 loss to the Warriors, he literally just says, "Oh, we're not gonna switch to what we're doing because the other team defeated us by that. We're gonna stick to the formula." And yet you literally saw the formula didn't work. I don't know why you still want to keep on doing that. And this is just completely different. I'm gonna talk about the Harden saga, like probably in a different light episode. But this is just talking about my frustrations with the Rockets. So Mike D'Antoni, you're a really great coach, but you haven't led your team to the finals at least. Like even with the Steve Nash Suns, you couldn't lead them. You couldn't get them over the hump. You underachieved with that Lakers team in 2013, and again, you underachieved with this Rockets team. As much, yeah, James Harden does have a blame at it. Mike D'Antoni does have a blame at it, but holy man, they missed 27 straight threes. And yet if you were up by 15 points without your second best player, many people like to use that as an excuse. I don't think that's an excuse. If you were able to have the lead and you could have just made a minor adjustment just and you would have won that game, anything could literally the Rockets could have had one beat the Cavs and then win the finals. But that didn't happen. Then the very next year, James Harden has like the most heroic scoring season of all time. One of them. And then because of Chris Paul's injuries and how Mike D'Antoni loves to run, it caused chemistry issues, and it I don't know, the timeliness of the shots was just very it just ranged with either one. It really made no sense. I even remember watching game 5 against the Warriors. Kevin Durant was gone. James Harden was shooting 60% from 3, and then he only was able to take two shots in the entire fourth quarter. Two fucking shots, man. Two shots, only two, which is very man. This is James Harden, the guy who was averaging 36 points in the regular season, off like what? How many shot attempts did he have? Like 25. He only takes two shots in the fourth quarter, and yet the Rockets lost by 3 points. They could have easily won that game. And then Curry torches them in Game 6, and then the season's over. James Harden. This is where the real problem is. This is the real problem I'm looking at now. This is the story I'm about to tell you. Listen to this. James Harden, alongside Chris Paul, had chemistry issues. I already stated that. The Rockets were clear front runners to get Jimmy Butler. They were. I remember this time I said, "Yo, please, let's get Jimmy Butler. Let's get Jimmy Butler. Let's get Jimmy." I remember just sitting down saying, like praying, "Let's get Jimmy Butler." One thing happened. He goes to the Heat. I said, "What the hell happened? If the Rockets were the clear cut number one favorites, why could they get Jimmy Butler?" Then I realized they were willing to do a sign and trade with Eric Gordon, PJ Tucker, and I think like 3 to 4 first round picks. I know that's a lot, but they gave that much up for Westbrook. So I would have rather gotten that for Jimmy Butler than Westbrook. But just they were about to give like around those picks, and then the reason why they couldn't do anything about it, the reason why they couldn't pull the trigger, because of the owner. The owner, Tillman Fertitta, the cheap ass motherfucker he is. I'm sorry for my language if you're very but this is just my frustrations, man. This is just my frustrations. Tillman Fertitta decides not to do it because he doesn't want to pay Jimmy Butler the max contract. He doesn't want to pay Jimmy Butler the max contract, and he fell in love too much with PJ Tucker and said, "No, I'm not gonna give PJ Tucker and give this man a max contract," which is the most oh man, why this. And then this later on, I'm going to talk about it later in the James Harden trade, but this will later on be him being a petty ass owner, emotional businessman. This will affect the decision the Houston Rockets will have to make in the future or so. But here's what the case here: the Rockets failed to get Jimmy Butler. James Harden got really mad. One reason why he got really mad, they couldn't get Jimmy Butler, as I already said. Then he comes out and says, "If you don't trade for Russell Westbrook, I'm going to request a trade." The Rockets did what they could to get Russell Westbrook. Daryl Morey, I respect you for not wanting to do that trade, but I know that the owner and James Harden kind of convinced you to do it, so you were kind of forced to do it. So I'm not really mad at you for that. So when they pulled that trigger, then they decided to just completely reiterate their offense. to what Russell Westbrook would shine in. And he did. But then Russell Westbrook got with a lot of injuries. Then later on, Russell Westbrook and James Harden both wanted out. You lose to LeBron and AD, and then the offseason, Russell Westbrook and James Harden both wanted out. And the owner didn't make anything better because they both hated him. They both hated for how he treated the team. They both hated for how he didn't like to pay anyone. He would literally spend his money on a $100 million yacht rather than just to pay players. This man, Tillman Fertitta, like I swear, he's ruined the city. He's ruining the city. The Rockets will never win with him as a owner, and this is really sucks because I'm a fan of this. I've been a fan of this team, and now I have to deal with this. I don't have to deal with myself, man. The front office has to do it. And then after this season, Mike D'Antoni and Daryl Morey decide to leave. James Harden and Russell Westbrook both want out. You want a fresh start? Rafael Stone becomes the GM. Stephen Silas, I'll get more on him later, but he decides to become the head coach, thinking that he's gonna be tra- coaching Russell Westbrook and James Harden and very talented team. He thought that he was gonna be get them over the hump. And later on, Russell Westbrook and James Harden decided, no, we don't want to stay in Houston. Then Russell Westbrook gets traded. Then James Harden gives the team a very huge headache that he decided decided to just not go to training camp, to enter strip clubs, and then again he entered strip clubs rather than just practice with the team. Of course, that brought chemistry issues, and if your star player is doing stuff like this, why the hell are you doing this? Why? Like, of course, you're not going to expect big stuff for the team, but eventually, of course, the James Harden trade rumors decided. I personally wanted Ben Simmons. I said, please, if Rafael Stone, there's one offer to not pass up on, it is Ben Simmons. It is Ben Simmons. Don't give me Karis LeVert and Jared Allen. I wanted Ben Simmons. I wanted Ben Simmons. I don't really like Karis LeVert, so I said no. I'm not nothing against Karis LeVert. I just don't like him as a basketball player. But hear me out here. I wanted Ben Simmons. And I want Ben Simmons bad. Like I literally went on so many. I really downloaded like so many Photoshop photos of him in a Rockets jersey. I literally commented on a lot of posts saying Simmons to H Town. I really wanted Ben Simmons on the Rockets because at the same time, if you have a disgruntled star, and usually based on history, the team that trades that star eventually loses the trade. But a lot of the times they don't get a cornerstone piece, Ben Simmons, who's already a three-time All-Star, Defensive Player of the Year candidate, who's 24 years old. This would have been the perfect rebuild to be in. And what they decide to do was eventually James Harden eventually just says, you know what? I'm done with the team. We're not good enough. Why the hell should I be on this team? The Rockets were definitely forced to trade him. They were definitely forced to trade him. Were forced to trade him like at the exact moment because they knew wherever he was gonna hurt the team. He wanted out even more. So they said, you know what? Let's trade him. I know they were in a rush, but eventually Daryl Morey decided to put this Ben Simmons on the table. He decided to put the Ben Simmons on the offer. Then again, this owner of his named Tillman Fertitta decides not to accept that offer just because he didn't want to give James Harden Daryl Morey. He didn't want to give Daryl Morey James Harden. My bad. And I forgot to mention Daryl Morey left the Houston Rockets to join the Philadelphia 76ers. So he wanted James Harden all along. Of course, the owner, the petty ass owner, gave away the best offer for the disgruntled star, gave away the best offer that was given. The best offer that was given. He turned that down just because he didn't want to give James Harden Daryl Morey James Harden. He didn't want to give James Harden to Daryl Morey. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And he hires Rafael Stone, who completely botched this James Harden trade from getting those 8 first round picks. I was really in love with those picks because the Rockets gave a lot of it for Russell Westbrook. And I said, you know what? Yeah, those picks definitely the Rockets are set for that. And yet, yeah, of course they're gonna be late first rounds, but at least they have something to do a deal with. But then they traded Karis LeVert for Victor Oladipo, which at first I was like, okay, I don't like Karis LeVert, But then when I thought of it, I said, no, why the hell did the Rockets do this? They gave away a guy who's already locked in for 2 years for just an expiring contract. And and if they thought he was going to be a higher trade value, that is not true because he was on an expiring contract. And yeah, I'm probably going to get down to that later. And then this is what happened. So you do actually have a good start without James Harden there, but then one injury. This team is so injury riddled and injury prone. Like it literally everyone gets injured every day. And then the team was on a 20-game losing streak, which I could say some of the fault is to Steven Silas, as I think he made some iffy judgments on each game. But at the same time, I don't really use him as a blame as a scapegoat as much other guy people do. They think, oh, it's his welcome to the NBA moment. I think it's him being very unlucky that he just he's been working as an assistant coach for 20 years. He was waiting as an assistant. He was waiting for his job as a head coach for 20 years. And he got a lot of praise for it. Luka Doncic, the Rick Carlisle, who's probably a top tier coach in NBA history. Rick Carlisle loved him. Rick Carlisle loved him. Luka Doncic loved him. Everyone loved Steven Silas in Dallas, and everyone else who had him as an assistant coach loved him because they had their best seasons with him. They've had their best seasons with him, and then he's been waiting his opportunity for 20 years to get this opportunity, this coaching opportunity. When he enters this situation, he thought he was going to get traded. He thought he was going to coach James Harden, Russell Westbrook, PJ Tucker, Robert Covington, Eric Gordon, and then eventually Christian Wood. He thought he was going to be coaching a championship contending team. And then he thought, oh, if this team wants coaching to get over the hump, I should be that coach. And then later on, Russell Westbrook and James Harden caused turmoil to the city. And then they both get traded. The team's in complete rebuild mode. Then they want to lose as much games as possible. And this is not even what he signed up for. This is not even what he signed up for. And he also has to deal with an injury team. He has to deal with so many lineups. He has to deal with so many different outcomes. And the problem is, I feel bad for him based on this. Based on this, I feel bad for him. Because other coaches like Steve Nash, who had zero coaching experience before the Nets, and then with the Nets, he had Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Kevin Durant. He has three of the most talented players in the league, arguably, on his team, alongside Mike D'Antoni, his own coach, alongside the bench sitting right next to him. Steve Nash entered an amazing situation in Brooklyn where people want to play rather than where people want out. Silas entered a situation where people wanted out. And then eventually it turned into this. And the problem is if Steven Silas gets fired, which I think he probably will by the end of this season or like 2 years from now. I don't know when I think he just will get fired eventually. He probably will never have another coaching opportunity because of this. Because he's probably going to be known as this man led the Rockets to have a 20-game losing streak. And now he lost his opportunity. It would make sense of how he lost his opportunity. For 20 years he was waiting for the perfect opportunity, and then he enters a situation that's just completely I don't even know what the words are. He enters a very bad situation. He has a petty ass owner. He has a front office that doesn't even know what they're doing. He has a front office that botches every trade. And then a lot of people are just using him as a scapegoat, which I can understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, it's not entirely his fault. Like, where did this come from? Where did this come from? Why are we treating him like he's the scapegoat? Yet he wasn't the one that said, "Oh, he wasn't the one that said, "Oh, I don't want Ben Simmons." He wasn't the one that sent Karis LeVert to the Indiana Pacers. He wasn't the one that sent that. What he really did was just have an injury team, have tried so many different lineups that wouldn't work because the Rockets are not a talented team. And then, yeah, of course, he's able to lose 20 games because he just doesn't know what's happening. And then now this trade yesterday, it really just got me. I got very mad at this trade, and partially it's just because of what the Rockets got in return for James Harden. So this is what happened. So Victor Oladipo gets traded, final second to for Avery Bradley, Kelly Olynyk, and a first round pick, a first lottery protected pick swap. Credit to the Heat, man. Pat Riley is a genius, but also Pat Riley knew the Colts were down. Not the Colts, the Rockets were down bad, and he played in he played in his favor. He knew that whatever offer he had on the table, the Rockets had to accept because they had nothing else to do. If the Rockets said, no, I want this guy, Pat would have not given it. The Rockets would have kept Victor Oladipo. It would have been worse than to just let him walk in free agency rather than just to just let him to oh yeah, so it would have been worse for him to walk in free agency and just get nothing from that. But they got something, which I honestly I am mad at that. But at the same time, this is where it came down to. The, the Houston Rockets could have had an opportunity to get Ben Simmons, an all-star caliber player, at the age of 24, defensive player of the year, and or fine Jared Allen, Harris LeVert, whoever. They could have had a way better team than they have now, and they just botched it. The only hope I have for this team, the only hope, is one thing: the draft of this year. In this year, the Rockets will have 3 first round picks regardless of what happens. So the Rockets will have 3 first round picks in this draft. And if one of them, if their own doesn't fall in the to protected top four, they'll still have 3 first round picks, but they'll all be like late first round picks. Which this is what my hope for this team is to get that number one overall pick, select Cade Cunningham, and even then, I don't trust this organization enough to just draft him. I know that's a huge shout because Cade Cunningham is the consensus number one, and everyone would take him. But I think Rafael Stone will probably and Tillman Fertitta will probably just do some BS that would just make Cade Cunningham on a different team. I just don't have confidence in this team. I did back then, but ever since like 2018, 2019, I never did. I never did. I don't even know if they're gonna draft Cade Cunningham, even if they get that pick. And even if they do, they'll probably trade him away. That's just a very oh man, I am frustrated with this team. I'll still cheer for this team, but I'll probably just take a step back, not watch any games, just stay there, probably just pray the Rockets get Cade Cunningham and just don't do anything bad with him. Keep him so it'll be the perfect rebuild. Not the perfect, just you'll have a better shot at something. But oh man, this is a very sad day as a Rockets fan. Yesterday was. Credits to Pat Riley for fleecing the Rockets. Credits to I forgot the Nets owner and GM for fleecing the Rockets. Thanks for everything, Houston, yo. Thank you, Tillman Fertitta, for ruining the city. Thank you, Raphael Stone, for botching every trade you do. Well, I can give you some credit, Raphael Stone, because you did get Kevin Porter Jr. and you got Christian Wood in the sign and trade. You are good at recovering trades, Raphael Stone, but you're very inconsistent with your mind. You don't even know what to do with anything. I just want to see how well you guys draft. If Raphael Stone drafts well, I can give you credit for that. But from what you've done so far, I don't really trust you in any circumstances. Man, this is a tough day to be in. A tough day to be in. Ah, man. And this is all facts, no cap. And I am dropping the mic. I don't even know what the hell to say. Every team, if your favorite team's in contention, enjoy it while you can. Unless you're the Lakers or Heat, but If you're a Rockets fan, I don't know, man. Just take a step back. Don't watch games. Just pray Kate Cunningham goes to Rockets. And until the next